Yo. Yo. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Can everybody hear me? Let me know if there's any problems with the stream. Let me know if the music is too loud. YouTube is giving me an error saying that the stream isn't smooth, but only YouTube. My internet seems fine. My software seems fine. So I don't know if YouTube is just tripping out. Anyway. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Don't really have anything specific planned today. Just thought I'd pop in and say what's up and chill for a second. Now YouTube is saying the stream is healthy, so I don't know. YouTube is weird, man. YouTube streaming is all over the place. You never know what's gonna happen. What's up, Electric Lomain? What's up, Blingus Man? What's up, Andrew? What's up, Imus? What's up, Gay Bren? What's up, Shaloa? What's up, Kevin De Silva? The problem also with YouTube live streaming is if the stream ends and you don't restart it in like 30 seconds or something, it completely ends the whole session. It doesn't like restart the same stream. You have to literally restart a whole new stream with a different URL, and it's just weird. That's not how Twitch works at all. So if the stream drops, or if I end the stream or try to restart the stream, I may just lose all of the viewers and have to start all over. What's up, Kristen? What's up, Kimberly? Looking for something positive? I like to think that my streams are usually positive. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the world. But yeah, I'm not going to be streaming for too long because I'm going to should be going to watch some football later today. It is the College Football National Championship game is later today. Pretty excited about that. Found your channel recently and love your content. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate that. I am doing well. What's up, Cajun Wine? Do I watch Bosch? Not really. I've seen a couple things. I don't watch it like, you know, I don't watch every video or whatever. I've seen a few things though, and I follow him on Twitter. Electric Lomain, thank you for the $10 super chat. What up, T1J? How are you today? What are the pros and cons of starting a YouTube channel if you want to remain anonymous? Like CGP Gray, for example, not use your actual name. What are the pros and cons? I mean, a lot of people make YouTube videos anonymously. You just gotta, I mean, if it's like super important to you that people don't figure out who you are, You just got to make sure you do everything that you need to do in order to keep that up. You got to make sure that all of your social media and stuff, none of that doxes you or whatever. Make sure like your Facebook isn't connected to your Twitter, and your Twitter isn't connected to your YouTube and all that stuff. But generally, if the right people want to know who you are, they can. They will. Like, it's just too easy to do that on the internet now. But generally, if you don't give people a reason to want to do that, they probably won't do it, unless you just get unlucky and have just some super creep that happens to follow you. But like for example, especially in the political realm, you can make political enemies really quickly on the internet, and they will find out who you are. They may not publicly dox you, but they will find out who you are. So, but if you're not involved in anything super controversial, most people won't have a reason to try and figure out who you are, unless you become like really famous and you get like really like super fans that like want to come to your house and shit. That can get weird, but I feel like that mostly only happens to like really famous people. I've been meaning to try WWE for the first time and don't know where to start. I think I remember you being a fan. Any suggestions? I've read WrestleMania 17 is good. Well, wrestling is not really like a normal show. Like, if you just want to get into wrestling, you should just watch the most recent episode. It's really good at catching you up in terms of what happened. But I mean, yeah, if you just want to watch like some of the most famous matches of all time, then yeah, I mean, I don't remember what happened at each one, but 17 looks like that was Stone Cold versus The Rock. Yeah, to see that, that's Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and The Rock are obviously maybe the two most celebrated pro wrestlers of like the generation that I grew up in. So a lot of their old stuff might be good, but I gotta say a lot of wrestling in general, but especially a lot of the wrestling from the 90s and early 2000s is like really, really cringe and doesn't hold up in terms of like the storylines and stuff. So I would just say be prepared for that. I also would recommend you check out AEW. AEW is like a way more, it's a company that kind of gives a shit about being sort of like socially responsible, more so than WWE. But I will say that I think WWE has better talent overall. So I don't know, but I would say just watch the most recent episode of the show. It's designed to get people in, even if they haven't been keeping up. They constantly recap everything that's been going on, and usually there's like these long campaigns that last several months, so you rarely even feel like you missed anything. What up? I recently became a fan of your channel. Great takes all around. Appreciate that. Bets on how many TDs Devontae Smith pulls in today? Ooh, I don't know. Did they confirm whether Jalen Waddle is coming back? I didn't see that. I mean, he's gonna get a couple. It says that Waddle will likely play. You have to make a video about your opinion on this video. Black protester Hags, is that supposed to be hugs? A Nazi, and ask why do you hate me? I haven't seen that video. Maybe I'll get a chance to see it at some point. The hated one has some advice on staying anon. I guess you can check that out. I haven't seen that. No more chess streams. Yeah, I'll do more chess streams in the future, but every stream is not going to be a chess stream for sure. You hanging in there all right, especially after the riots and stuff. How you dealing with it all? I don't know. Like, to me, I felt like this was kind of like not even unexpected. And I don't know. I feel like there's a certain aspect of society that these kinds of things just aren't that surprising, especially just given what we've been through and what, you know, how Trump's presidency has been. We should have expected more and more things like this to happen. Not saying that, you know, it's normal and we should like just shrug at it, but I wouldn't say that it like emotionally devastated me, because it's just like, yep, that seems about right. I mean, the whole thing is shitty and sucks, and it sucks that people died, and it's just a thing that shouldn't have happened, but can't say I was like shocked or anything. When you started your YouTube channel, did you have hesitation showing yourself on camera? No. I mean, I don't know. To me, this is like my work. This is my content, my creations, and I want to get credit for my creations. So I feel like it didn't even occur to me to remain anonymous. I mean, maybe that would have been a good idea, but it just feels like the best way to get credit for what you do is to let people know that you're the one who made it. Maybe that's less important for other people, but, and also, I don't know, I guess I like the attention. Which show? Honestly, like, you can pick one. I would probably recommend watching all of them, because they kind of all tie in together. But if that's too much, just pick one. They're kind of all equal. There's basically Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Raw and SmackDown are sort of considered like the main shows, while NXT is sort of like the developmental show where the up and comers are basically they're like trying to prove themselves to get called up to the main shows. However, NXT is in many ways better than the main shows, possibly because the people are trying to prove themselves, so they're like going the extra mile, so the action is a lot better. However, the main shows have a lot of the seasoned performers, and has like, it's more storyline focused. I don't know if you care more about the storylines in the promos or the actual in-ring wrestling, but the main shows are more storyline focused. What is my profession? I guess content creator. Are any of us all right? I don't know. I used to have the biggest crush on Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy is the man. Have I ever been to Scotland? I have not. I'm an American seeing all this from another country. My Icelandic co-workers were shocked about the coup, and I just had to kind of shrug helplessly. Yeah, I wonder what it's like from people from certain countries. I honestly feel like a lot of countries probably watch America as if it's like a reality show. What is my favorite number? I don't think I have one. It used to be 5 when I was younger, but I kind of stopped thinking about it. What's your take on women with body hair? I think people should do whatever they want with their own bodies. Probably the storyline. Well, yeah, the Raw and SmackDown are much more storyline focused, especially now. They've been like leaning heavier into the storyline since the pandemic because, you know, they don't have audiences now. So they've been doing a lot more like cinematic stuff, which is interesting. But just like for a show, I think it's pretty decent right now. But for any show that's been ongoing for years and years and years, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And so just be prepared for that. It's not always great. Sometimes it's like quite bad actually. But when it's good, it's really good. Like when wrestling is good, I think it's as good as any media, any fiction. Was listening to Fiona Apple yesterday and saw your comment under Not About Love. Are you still a fan? Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs of all time. Have I ever been outside the US? Technically yes, although I don't remember it. I was born in Germany. But I left there when I was like 2 or before I was 2. And then I went to Panama one time when I was a kid. And I barely remember what that was like either because I was so young. Anyone solely looking for great in-ring work should probably look at NJPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, I haven't watched NJPW, but you know, I've seen a lot of clips. Yeah, in terms of like just straight up good in-ring wrestling, a lot of the smaller promotions usually are better at that than WWE for various reasons. Again, I think it's because people are less comfortable. Like in WWE, if you're like the superstar who makes $1 million a year, you're comfortable. You don't really have to show out in the ring that much. Also, a lot of the WWE wrestlers are older. Also, well, I don't know if that's true. That might not be true. But also, WWE is much more, since they're spending so much money on people, they're much more concerned with people not getting hurt. So a lot of moves are just straight up not allowed in WWE. So a lot of the high flying or more dangerous moves you won't see in WWE. So it's double-edged sword. About the riots, I'm afraid that Brazil will go down the same way in 2022. Yeah, Brazil. I don't know that much about what's going on in Brazil, but it does seem like there's a lot of tension over there. I certainly hope that it's, it doesn't get that bad, but we'll see. People seem more informed on American politics. Yeah. Well, I feel like American politics probably have a disproportionate impact on the world compared to other countries. But I do think Americans should be, including myself, should be more informed on foreign politics. I did watch Death of 2020. Oh no, I did not watch Death of 2020. I meant to watch that though. That's the thing that that's like the comedy thing, right? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I was a military kid. I'm a black guy from Mississippi. What can I? MS is Mississippi. What can I do to have a bigger voice when we make up over a third of the state? I mean, I think you just have to do community organization. Because there's probably already organizations and people and groups that you can like get involved with. And in a state with so many black people, you can almost certainly find groups and things like that. Just gotta ask around. Go on Facebook, there might be some groups there. Like I live in Alabama and I feel like it can't be that much different. And but yeah, other than that, if
74
it's
plus
not
million people voted for Trump. What should we do with those folks? We can't ignore them, but how could the other side even work with them if we can agree on a base level of facts?
thank you for the $5. I'll answer that in a second. But yeah, if there is nothing like that, then you're just gonna have to. I mean, if you truly want your voice to be heard, you might have to take the initiative and get it started, or at least like talk to people about it. Okay. 74 plus million people voted for Trump. What should we do with those folks? We can't ignore them, but how could the other side even work with them? We can't agree on a base level of facts. Well, I think it's important to realize that there's only two options, and for a lot of people, neither of the two options were very appealing. I think that a lot of people voted for Trump begrudgingly. I mean, he's like one of the most unpopular presidents in history. His approval level has never been above 50%. So I think it's important to recognize that those 74 million people are not 74 million enthusiastic Trump supporters. I do think that there needs to be I think society just needs to put a higher focus on education and critical thinking, because it is a problem when we can't agree on like the basic reality of what's going on in the world. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be hard. Like, I don't know if there's any sort of like magic bullet solution. It's gonna take a concerted effort for us to just put more good ideas out into the world. Like, I get messages all the time where people are like, I used to be headed down the alt-right pipeline, or I used to be a hardcore anti-feminist, or I used to be a hardcore conservative. And some of your ideas, or some of the ideas of other people I watch, have gotten me to change my mind, or have gotten me to rethink things, or just gotten me to be a little more thoughtful about what I believe. And we just have to figure out how to do that at a wider level. So I feel like, I mean, that's kind of one of the goals of what I do, is just to put more what I perceive to be good ideas out into the world. And I think if more people do that, then we can slowly make change. And also, I think we just have to be more politically responsible. We have to vote. Because I think that the kind of people who think that Trump is good for the country is a minority, and I think it's a very small minority in this country. Well, maybe not a small minority, but I think it's a minority, and I think it's a significant minority. But we just need to get the people who are the majority to be more politically active and politically responsible. At the very least, just go vote. And you know, it's hard to be like truly informed, but it's easy to see that someone like Trump shouldn't have been president. I don't think you have to be like a political expert to realize that that was a bad idea. So if we can just make, you know, baseline decisions and not vote for like lunatics like that, that would go a long way. But yeah, nothing is going to change overnight. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. I've heard you say a big reason you make videos is to start a conversation. What is the higher level goal for starting the conversations? Are there other ways you work towards that high level goal? So yeah, it's kind of going back to what I was just saying. I want to put what I think are good ideas out into the world, because I think that good ideas counter bad ideas. And I've gotten so many messages that kind of validate that for me. And that's kind of mostly it. Beyond that, I just want people to be more thoughtful. I think that we should always be rethinking ourselves and putting our ideas under scrutiny and we should never think that we've got it all figured out. And I just want people to think about stuff more. That's another goal. And that's, you know, I just think that's a good thing to do, and I want to encourage people to do it. I don't know how effective I have been at encouraging people to do that, because when you make videos like this, it's very easy for it to become like a parasocial relationship type thing where people see you as this brilliant figure who can do no wrong, and then it almost runs counter to the whole thing that I'm trying to do. Like, I'm not making videos because I want people to kiss my ass and tell me that I'm a genius. I want to encourage you to think for yourself, and you know, if you come to a different conclusion, that's fine. I can't say anything about that if you actually truly thought about it. But overall, I think it has a positive outcome. What is your preference of streaming on YouTube versus Twitch, like convenience or audience? The main reason I stream on YouTube is because my audience is on YouTube. I don't have an audience on Twitch. If I stream on Twitch, no one watches because I just don't have an audience there. Perhaps I could build an audience over time there, but at this point in my life and career, it seems like extra work that it seems unnecessary. Overall, Twitch is clearly a better platform for streaming. It has way more options, way more support for streamers. It seems like it has a more stable streaming platform. There's more monetization options. So overall, Twitch is better. Twitch is not better for being discovered and building an audience stuff. Twitch is actually quite horrible at that. So that's another thing. Also, the culture on Twitch is kind of weird. I'm not really into the culture. I watch a lot of Twitch streamers. There's a few that I really like a lot. But overall, like the mainstream culture, and I understand there's a lot of smaller communities that are different, but the like mainstream culture of the popular streamers is just like really like immature and memey and shit. And I'm not really into it. It's kind of a put off. It's like a turn off to me. So that's another reason why I've kind of avoided Twitch. Although I know that I don't have to participate in that culture to be successful on Twitch, and many people have achieved that, but it is just off-putting just to begin with. Just the community surrounding a lot of these popular streamers are just like so obnoxious, and I just don't want any of that spillover on my stuff. What you said about older wrestlers and the work rate is true to a degree. Shinsuke Nakamura came to WWE for a lighter schedule. I didn't know that, but that makes sense. Is it ethical to eat meat? I'm not convinced that it is unethical to eat meat. Whether it is specifically ethical, I don't think so. I mean, it's like neutral. Maybe it's not neutral, but I don't think it's unethical. Do you still want to leave America? Yep. Am I a King of Fighters fan? I actually have not played much King of Fighters. I would like to, because as many of you might know, I love fighting games, but for some reason I kind of missed out on the KOF franchise. So, I mean, I saw the KOF 15 trailer and seemed cool, but I wasn't like super hyped for it because I haven't played the King of Fighters games. Tying morality to food. Is the easy way to enter a philosophical death spiral where the only proper answer is to starve. Possibly. I don't know. I don't think I think of it that way. It's just I just don't. The arguments haven't been that convincing to me. The problem with it being a small minority is America has a lot of people, so even a minority is a significant amount of people. Yeah, that's true. I'm just saying the majority just needs to vote. Like, I think a large part of the culture that creates these attitudes is who's in office, who's in power. Like the Republican Party, for example, they played a very large role. Like the actual human beings in the Congress of America have themselves played a large role in moving the Overton window to the right. So my idea is that if they were different people, maybe that wouldn't happen. But beyond that, even if it is gonna suck for the minority of people, well, it probably won't even suck for them, but they may not like it, you know. Even if the minority doesn't like it, if we get things done, get laws passed, get officials elected that do things that are good for the world and good for the country, I'm okay with that trade-off. Four years of the dude, 74 million people voted for him. I don't know. I mean, I want to share in the optimism, but I don't know. Well, I mean, there's this, I feel like people seem to be flabbergasted that people have different opinions in them, but that's just kind of how it works. Different people value different things, and it's kind of, you know, no one can really, I mean, you can have your views about what is morally correct and not, but you have to come to terms with the fact that people think differently than you. Like you're just not gonna, you're never gonna have joy in your life if you can't come to terms with that. And when you think about that, it's pretty easy to understand why people might agree that Trump is a terrible person but still vote for him, because they value different things. Twitch chat community is a lot better. The chat experience alone makes tight-knit communities more possible. It takes a while to acclimate Twitch brain development. Well, it definitely depends on the community. I do think that Twitch chat feels more like a community. Like people, chat is almost like this, I don't know, this amorphic being that kind of all works together, but just the way that people are is like just really cringy to me a lot of the time. But it depends on the streamer. And I do think that there have, particularly over the past year or two, there have been several like pretty like wholesome and positive streamers come up and become very popular. So I think that kind of helps with the community, because it's, but I don't know. There have also been times where someone who I think is very wholesome still has a shitty community for some reason. So I don't know. If we want to call in and contribute to your next video by leaving a voicemail, how do you tell us what the topic will be? I generally don't tell what the topic will be. In fact, sometimes the topic is chosen based on the voicemails that I get. So I don't know. If you want to leave a voicemail, you can, but you probably won't know what the video is going to be about. What's up, Miguel? I think more shared experiences would help, like some sort of national service initiative. I mean, there's a level of, I think there is a level of responsibility for the government to, remove inequities and, make laws that benefit, that actually are good for the world and not, good for corporations. But there's also a onus of responsibility on people as individuals. People have to make the choice to be better people, and there's just no one can force anyone to do that if they don't want to do it. We can try to convince other people, and I think that's part of what I try to do with my content, is just to make compelling arguments to convince people to just maybe be a little more thoughtful, maybe be a little more kind. But you can't force people to do it. How do you feel about the development of your channel/content over time? Are you glad of the content changes you made? And the ones you haven't made, is there any change you're moving towards? I mean, I guess I'm happy with my development of my channel. I don't know. I mean, I feel like the changes that I've made to my channel have been just sort of like very natural evolutions as I become more inspired by things. Also, you know, I feel like a lot of people are maybe like kind of either afraid to say it or afraid to do it, but I try to do what I think works on YouTube and what I think people want to see, what I think will be successful on YouTube. I obviously, I don't ever put anything up that I don't like or that I don't believe in, but over time you realize, making longer videos usually works better. So I started making my videos longer. The audience, like whenever I make a video that's not about politics or social issues, it gets way less views. So I don't do it that much. I do it sometimes if I want to, but I still care about politics and social issues, so I'm happy to make those videos. But there's like little YouTube optimization things like that that I do in order to stay successful on YouTube. And I think that's fine. I don't know. Some people seem like really turned off by having to play the YouTube game, but I kind of like it. I don't really mind it. And obviously, just myself as a person and my views have slightly evolved and shifted over time, and that reflects in my videos as well. And obviously, I'm at least I hope that I'm evolving into a better person, a more thoughtful person. So it's cool to see that reflected in the videos. Like if you go watch some of the older videos from like 5-6 years ago, I don't think you'll find like very drastic differences, but you'll definitely see slight differences. And there may even be some like direct contradictions as I've evolved on many issues. So do I think Trump will be impeached and charged? Seems doubtful. Our Congress is very bad at getting anything done in a reasonable amount of time, and they've got like 10 days to impeach and charge and have the trial and all that. Seems unlikely they'll get that done in 10 days. What's up, Cool Coley? My mom has been recently getting to a lot of right-wing media and even started believing some crazy conspiracies like the Capitol riot were planned by Antifa. It's frustrating, but I tried to be real with her. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, propaganda is real, and propaganda goes both ways, I think. But right-wing propaganda, I think, has caused significant damage to the United States, and I don't really, especially when we're talking about older people who are set in their ways and don't experience too many things outside of their bubble. I don't know exactly how you counter that. I don't think that yelling at people and calling them names and stuff really helps. In fact, it probably does the opposite. But the only solution that I've found is just trying to put good ideas out there to hopefully counter the bad ideas. Have I checked out Bad Empanada's channel? I feel like I've seen some of that. Not a lot though. When you think you'll be getting your own place, I take it the revenue from your channel is putting you in a better place. My goal is to get my own place when my current lease is up, which is September. So later this year. I mean, if the situation works itself out to where I can do it earlier, I will. I will do it as soon as I can. But for now, it's just going to be when my lease is up. The best we can do to inspire others to change themselves is say something that really makes them think about what you're saying and really start to reevaluate their way of thinking and doing things. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just all about putting good ideas out into the world. As long as, I think good ideas counter bad ideas. That's kind of my theory. So the problem is bad ideas. There's like an abundance of bad ideas, and often often good ideas are hard to explain in a way that people find comfortable or people can understand. Bad idea. It's really easy to spread bad ideas because they don't rely on truth. They don't rely on any kind of complexity. So it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that's why we need people who are good at communicating to be doing these kinds of things. What's your opinion on D'Angelo Wallace? Is that the one YouTuber? I've seen a couple of his videos. They seem fine. I don't know. I don't know that much about D'Angelo Wallace. But I'm subscribed to D'Angelo Wallace, but I think I've watched I've watched I'll watch like 5 minutes and then switch off. I don't know. I do that a lot with people where I just kind of skim and then switch off. Has anyone ever told me that I look like Sterling K. Brown? I think that's the first I've heard that one. I don't see it. The music is intense. Are we about to meet the final boss? I guess you'll see. You think Trump will leave office before the 20th? I mean, like, is he gonna resign? Probably not. Is he gonna stop working? Possibly. But I mean, he doesn't work that much anyway. He spent like 200 of his days in office golfing. Yeah, that's what's been happening with my mom. She's been getting into that bubble, even delete all her social media, now only use Parler or that new social media app. Yeah, I think after a while, certain people become very set in their ways and it's hard to break them out of things. It also doesn't help that usually the reaction to that sort of thing, or maybe not usually, but often the reaction to that sort of thing is just like antagonism and like mean-spirited attacks and stuff like that, which I don't think ever works. I mean, maybe it works sometimes, but you know, not to be cliche, but I don't think you beat hate with more hate. It just doesn't work. Like it's a cliche, but like just practically in real life, it just doesn't work. But the thing is, I think most people, they just have like weird ideas about strategy, or they just kind of want vengeance. They kind of want vengeance more than they want things to be better. Or they want some kind of like emotional validation rather than fixing the situation. But I just don't think it works like that. I mean, maybe people have different experiences than me. Maybe people have seen different things than me, but I don't think I have ever seen you know, someone get like yelled at and insulted, and then they're like, oh, that inspires me to change everything I've been doing. This doesn't seem like it works like that. What classes did I take in high school? I mean, I barely remember high school. That was a blur. I know I took art. That was kind of like the main elective that I took. Basically in high school, in high school, we had to choose between art, band, and ROTC, I think. Yeah. And I chose art. But there were other electives. Like I took, basically it was home economics, but it was called food, nutrition, and wellness. I took that at one point, and I took a lot of like the basic stuff. I mean, I don't know if you want to know the whole curriculum, but you know, I took algebra and shit, trigonometry, biology. I took a forensics class. That was pretty cool. Recently found out I have autism. The news hit me hard. Any advice on self-acceptance? Well, I feel like sometimes it's hard for me to answer questions like this because I think about everything in like a very sort of rational way, but a lot of times rationality is not what is needed to fix these kind of like emotional issues. But I mean, I think if there's an issue with self-acceptance, that sort of implies that you either consciously or subconsciously think that there's something wrong with having autism, or that being autistic makes you like inferior or less than or something like that, which is just like not true, like in any way. Like it's not under no like reasonable measure is that a true thing. It's just a thing, you know? And I'm not even sure, like you might, you know, it is described as like a disorder or disability, but I'm not even sure if that's true. Sometimes I feel like it's just you're different than most people in society, and society is not built for that type of person, so it feels like a disorder. But you know, maybe it's our fault that we don't arrange society better, more inclusively. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but yeah, I think the main thing is you have to get to a point where you realize that there's nothing wrong with having autism, like not even a little bit. How you do that, that's the part that I'm not so great at, because you know, if you don't already think that, maybe someone telling you that won't convince you, or at least it won't convince like your subconscious, like anxious, insecure, whatever it is. But I mean, we're all people. We've all got ups and downs, pros and cons, characteristics. No one is any less than anyone else. Like there's no reason to think that you individually deserve less, you know, are less worthy, deserve less acceptance than anyone else. Like we've all got shit. It may not be autism, but we've all got something. If you had to, would you rather spend a day with Kanye West or Trump? I don't know. I guess probably Kanye West, and I just try to get him to talk about music. Hey, I enjoy seeing your videos, and I think you're having a big impact on the world. Please keep doing what you do. I appreciate that. How much sleep do you need to feel like you are 100%? Like, probably like 7-8 hours. Is YouTube validating compared to other jobs? Well, I haven't had every job in the world, but it is the most validating. Well, I don't know, validating is kind of a weird word, but it's definitely the most fulfilling job that I've ever had. But I think I have had a series of particularly unfulfilling jobs. That's probably common, but I know that other people have jobs that they think are fulfilling that aren't YouTube. So I'm sure that there are other jobs that may be more fulfilling, but I just haven't tried them yet. Would I ever consider doing a video about racial humor on shows like Family Guy, mainly Seth MacFarlane shows, to be honest? I mean, possibly. If I don't, I mean, I just have to see what there is to say about it. I did a video about Tina Fey's racial humor, but I mean, generally I make a video if I feel like I have something interesting or unique to say about the topic. Particularly if it's something that I don't think people have talked about before or talked about in the way that I think about it. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what I would say about that topic, but you know, maybe something will come up. Do you think the U.S. will ever achieve complete equality? I mean, probably not, but I mean, it depends on what you think by what you call equality. I don't think complete equality is necessary, but I don't think human beings are capable of treating everyone equally. I just don't think that's how human brains work. So unless we get to a point where, I don't know, where like completely impartial robots are making all the decisions, then probably not. But that doesn't mean that we can't make it better. Do you think aliens have been here or are here currently? I have no reason to think that aliens have been here or are here currently. So no. I generally don't believe things that I don't have evidence for. It's just generally how I operate. Robots are as prejudiced as the people who program them. I mean, I think that can be true to a certain extent. But and I think that there should be some sort of human prejudice. You just have to make sure you're at a different starting point. Or you have to make sure that you're at a good starting point. Like, favoring equality is itself a prejudice. So you would have to tell the robot, we want equality. And then you'd have to like, you'd have to weigh things out. So there would have to be human input for sure. But yeah, not, you know, You just have to make sure you have a good starting point, and it's more complicated than I'm saying it. I mean, a great example is the YouTube algorithm. The YouTube algorithm at this point, probably no human understands it because it self-learns, and I mean, maybe it has logs that people can read and shit like that, but it's designed to evolve on its own and learn on its own. But the problem is when you have the human input in the beginning. So let's say, I don't know, obviously it's more complicated, but let's say that the human input at the beginning was they told the robot, hey, I want you to suggest videos and what's the word I'm looking for? We want you to suggest certain videos, but we also want you to hinder certain videos, and we want you to do that in a way that maximizes the amount of watch time on our platform, that maximizes the amount of time people spend on our platform, that maximizes the amount of time that people spend interacting with our advertisers. So maybe something like that was the initial input, and it works. You know, people suggest videos. The algorithm suggests videos, analyzes how people react to it, and like, oh, a lot of people like this video. We're gonna suggest it to more people. That way, massive watch time, exponential multiplier. At the same time, other videos are like, ooh, this video gets a lot of, or this video doesn't get as much watch time. We're gonna block that. We're not gonna block it, but we're gonna hinder it because it's, you know, it's not doing it. So this seems good for YouTube, but it could have negative results. So, for example, a video with fucking white nationalist conspiracy theories might get a ton of watch time, a ton of engagement. The impartial robot doesn't give a shit what the video is about. All it gives a shit is about increasing watch time. So it's gonna push that video out into the world, spreading all of this propaganda. On the other hand, a video about like a video where someone is making a positive video about their gender transition. Video like that may not get the massive views, and also some of the people, the advertisers catch on, and the advertisers are like, well, this topic is kind of controversial to some of our customers, so we don't really want that to be spread out too much. We don't want our ads on stuff like that. So then the impartial bot is like, okay, we're gonna block some of that stuff. So the impartial bot is doing what it was told to do, but it needed human input to do it in a way that didn't suck, you know? So there does need to be human input. And by the way, these are things that actually happened on YouTube. It's not hypothetical. These things actually happen, and YouTube and humans that work at YouTube had to come in and be like, okay, we need to let's not spread Nazi propaganda. Let's not be involved with that. And also, I honestly think that they fixed this. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they fixed the problem with LGBTQ content not being suggested and not being monetized. Maybe y'all can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was a problem where literally if you put the word trans in anywhere in your title description, you just instantly get demonetized, and as a result not get suggested. So that's kind of a long-winded example, but yeah, there does need to be human input for sure. If you like anime, I've recently been enjoying My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan. Would recommend if you haven't seen them. I don't watch a lot of anime. My brother has been really trying to get me to watch One Punch Man. That's like his favorite show, or his favorite anime at least. I watched a couple episodes of that recently, which is pretty cool. But I sort of like I sort of like had a bias against anime. I'm like more open to giving it a chance these days. But you know, growing up, most of the anime that I watched was like really like not good in my opinion. So I kind of wrote off the whole genre, but that's not really fair to do. But a lot of the stuff that people like, I didn't like, so I was like, maybe I just have a different taste. Did I already have a discussion on the Capitol storming? I think it has been it's been brought up. I just don't have a lot to say. I guess it was bad. Like I'm not sure what else to say. Like it's a thing that shouldn't happen. But I guess the main take that I had was I wasn't that surprised by it. So it wasn't like emotionally devastating to me because it was to me it was just like, yeah, that seems about right. This type of sort of homegrown terrorism, and this isn't the first example. I think this is maybe the first example where it seemed like normal, like regular people were doing it. But you know, this sort of like homegrown domestic terrorism is just a thing that's been happening for decades, and I think that we should expect to see an uptick of it when someone like Donald Trump is the president. Maybe it is a little remarkable that it did seem to be just like normal people and not like calculated terrorists or whatever. But I mean, Trump pretty much gave people permission to do something like that. So I guess that was my main takeaway from it. Is achieving racial equality about seeing everyone's color and accepting each other's differences, or not about not seeing color and treating everyone the same? Well, at this point, you can't not see color. Like it's not a thing that you can do. People's race is very, very much a part of history, of culture, of people's identities. So it would be like pretty rude at this point to say that you're not going to see people's race. Maybe sometime way down the line, many generations in the future, we could get to a point where race is less important and no one gives a shit what you look like or what color your skin is. But that's not a thing now. And I don't think it'll be a thing for a while, for a long time. So right now, achieving racial equality is about acknowledging what people have had to go through due to perceptions about their race. Pretending that that's not a thing, I don't think helps. Using AI to predict crime seems as though it will continue to target vulnerable communities that have a lengthy history of racial profiling by law enforcement. Yeah, I don't. Again, if you're going to use AI, you have to have limitations on it. But I mean, you know, there's been many movies and books and stuff written about AI being used to solve crime. Never turns out well. But yeah, I mean, if you say like AI, hey AI, we want you to stop people that are likely to commit crimes. Very easily, it could be like, oh, it seems here that black people seem to commit a disproportionate number of violent crimes. Therefore, we're going to add black as a multiplier in likeliness to commit crimes. And I don't think that would be appropriate. You'd have to make it more complicated than that. I hope they change that trans thing. I'm trying to put together a video now about Transformers. I mean, that's a joke, but that's literally what would happen. You can make a video, like literally people did tests. People like I can't remember who did it, but this one person made a video that was literally no content in the video. It was just like either it was like static or it was like a black screen, but then they put the word trans in the title and it got demonetized. Would you ever do a video about how the media wants to demasculate black men, e.g. putting them in dresses, as Dave Chappelle / Cat Williams have mentioned in interviews? That actually might be an interesting topic, because there have been a lot of black people that said that. I tend to think that's kind of it's like sexist, homophobic, and transphobic all at once, almost. It's mostly homophobic though. But I kind of want to do a video about homophobia in the black community, so that could be a topic of that could be a point of conversation in that video. What's your take on moral relativism? Do you condemn the actions of people who acted under their social contract, what was acceptable at their time but wouldn't be by today's standards? It depends, because sometimes what is acceptable under what was acceptable at one's time was not like a real contract. It was a contract that excluded people from the contract. So like an obvious example is slavery. There was a time where slavery was, in America at least, was pretty normal. But the slaves, the human beings who were slaves, were excluded from the contract for some reason. They didn't have a say in it, and I don't think that's fair. So I still think that is worthy of condemnation. But there may be examples where that's not the case. Like I'm trying to think of a specific example. Like I don't know. Like maybe there's like a community where cannibalism is socially acceptable. It seems to me that in my community, most people, don't want to be cannibalized. So we kind of agree not to do that to each other. But maybe in another society, they don't have that agreement, and everyone, acknowledges it, and so it's different. I don't know. That was just something that came to my head. I don't know if it's the best example. Should have known there was no ice cream in this video. True. Caught you live for the first time. Well, welcome to the stream. I'm probably only going to stream for about 30 more minutes because I do have to go watch some football later. What's my favorite chess opening? I don't think I'm good enough to have a favorite chess opening. The one that I use the most is the London system, but that's not really because it's my favorite. It's just because it's easy to use and you don't have to think about it that much. But I just don't. I'm not knowledgeable enough to really compare the openings enough to have a favorite. Right now, I'm just trying to. Basically, I just tried to pick something easy so that I could like learn like the middle game and end game. Slavery was used to pit black folk against one another rather than the master. They would elevate house slaves and create tension among field workers. Yeah, but for sure. It's very clear that they knew what they were doing. That's why, like, in today's time, we have to recognize when those types of things are happening. That's the point. That's why they make us study history in school, is so that we can see when history repeats itself, because we have the context, because similar things have happened before. When we see the upper class pitting the lower classes against each other, we should recognize that, because it's happened before in so many different instances. But maybe the fact that it still remains effective is a testament to how useful a strategy it is. In The Proud Family, the teacher says a line I still remember: "A man who doesn't know his past has no future." That Proud Family reference, I forgot about the Proud Family. But yeah, I mean, it is useful. I mean, like I said, this is why we are taught history. And even on an individual level, I would like to think that people learn from things that have happened to them in the past. If not their own mistakes, seeing other people's mistakes. Why do you think so many educated people fail to notice these kinds of patterns in their life? History repeating itself, powerless, being pitted against themselves. Well, I think often it's because the narrative is presented in a way that they like, and that is the easiest way to get someone to convince. The easiest way to convince someone of something is to create a narrative that makes them the good guys. So if you can do that, it's pretty easy to get people to forget about things. So, you know, if people in power tell you, you know, you're doing everything right, you're a patriot, you're a good, hardworking person, it's just these other folks that are holding you down. It's really hard to shake that off. That even if you are struggling, that feels good to hear, because you get to be the hero in the story. But we just got to get better at recognizing that. And it goes either way. I mean, I was kind of thinking of it in a terms of like right-wing propaganda, but I mean, it happens on the left as well. Yeah. Is it ethical for one to utilize or even abuse capitalism? I'm referring to the argument in which people defend a certain CEO by saying blame the system, not the player. I mean, it just depends. I mean, I don't think it is morally wrong to collect a paycheck. It may be morally wrong to it may be morally wrong to pay a CEO millions of dollars, Meanwhile, you have workers that, barely can afford food. That may be morally wrong. But it probably just depends on the situation. But I definitely don't think I don't think in terms of blame the system. I think that there are clearly individuals that do shitty stuff. Electric Lomain, thank you for the 5. I'm out T1J. One other question: if someone Heikos when no one is around, did they even Heiko? Enjoy your game. I appreciate that. I think that they did Heiko. You should, in fact, that's like the main time you should Heiko when no one else is around. But yeah. I think that there are clearly individuals who make decisions that are immoral within capitalism. I think anyone who's ignoring that is wrong. These companies are not autonomous. They are run by people. So I think that's part of it. But I don't think that just anyone that's involved in the system, just by virtue of being in it, is unethical or immoral. Like, it's like, what else would you want them to do? You may argue that if you benefit a lot from a shitty system, that you have an obligation to use those resources to help the people who haven't benefited. I don't know if that is a moral obligation, but you may argue that it is. So you may argue that a rich CEO should be using some of that money to help people, but it's hard to. I feel like it's a more complicated argument to say that people are obligated to give people their stuff. I don't know how I feel about that. But if you're on the board of a huge drug company or something, and you're making decisions that just very directly result in harm and death to people, I think it's very easy to say that that's immoral, and that's individually immoral. Like, you, the person, have done something immoral. Now, if you just mean anyone, like, I don't think it's immoral to have a lot of money. I feel like some people argue as if it is. I think it's fine. But I think there's a level where it can get into pretty shaky territory. Do you like late 90s, early 2000s hip-hop better than what they're putting out now? Because your playlist is giving me some vibes, bro. 80s babies, 90s kids. Well, I definitely do. But these most of these beats, I think, were made like in the 2000s. So that might be why. These beats were made by my brother, who's a music producer, and he definitely makes contemporary stuff too. This is just kind of an older playlist, but it just so happens that I do like early 2000s hip hop better. But that's probably just because that's what I grew up with. You think Trump will be impeached? Someone asked that earlier. My thing is, I don't think Congress ever gets anything done very quickly, and they have like 10 days to do that. So it seems very unlikely that they can get that done in 10 days. Who you got winning the bowl? I have no idea. I did not watch a single NFL game. I just watch college football, to be honest. What's your opinion on the leftist take of censorship on social media, or rather the banning of Trump? Is it a slippery slope? Is it already slippery and we're just protecting hate and nuance? Well, it's not. I don't even know what is the leftist take. But I mean, it is all like the rules of Twitter have been for a long time. Don't harass people. Don't say racist shit. Don't incite violence. That has been the rules of Twitter for at least like 5 to 10 years. So there's been many times where Trump should have got banned or at least broke those rules on several occasions. Twitter decided, which I think is fair, to be honest. Twitter decided that Trump is the president. He's a notable individual, and so it may be in the public interest for people to see what he says. So we're not going to ban him, but if he says something that's like definitely not true, we'll add a little thing there just to let people click and see that, hey, the thing that he said is probably not true. Now, more recently, I think that Twitter said there's like an active violent situation going on, and we've got a president who's saying things that could be construed as encouraging people to continue to be violent. So they were like, hey, we need you to take that down because you can't use our platform to incite violence. Arguably, Trump has already done this, but this is a situation where it's like very, very specific. He's referring to a very specific situation, and it's active. It's like happening right now. And Trump didn't take him down, so they were like, well, we're going to ban you because you can't use this platform to incite violence. Now, Twitter has not been great on everything, but I feel like that they have played the Trump thing okay overall. Maybe they were a little slow to do certain things. And also they probably feel a little more emboldened to do it because Trump is about to not be the president anymore. But I do understand why they've been, very tiptoey about it. But I feel like very clearly Trump has broken Twitter's terms of service that have been in place for years. It's not like this is like new rules. These have been rules for years. I think they've just been tiptoey about it because he's a president and he's a notable person. Like he's a politically notable person that it may be in the interest of news and being informed. It may be in our interest just to know what he says. Like I don't know if I follow Trump. I used to follow Trump. I think I might still follow him. I just think it is just to be an informed individual. Sometimes you have to know what he's saying, even if it's ridiculous or harmful. So I kind of understand where they're coming from with that. But it may have taken them a little too long to start adding notices because I understand a lot of people are following that account. A lot of people might take anything that account says at face value. So it may help. It may help like 1.5% people if you put a notice that's like, hey, this isn't true, by the way. Your brother's beats are awesome. Uh, I'll tell him. I'll tell him you think that. I believe there's a link to his SoundCloud, although I don't think he keeps it updated. But I think there's a link to his SoundCloud in the description of the video. But I don't think that there's the argument now that Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, maybe not Reddit so much, but Facebook and Twitter specifically, people argue like these are the new public squares, and so that the laws of free speech should apply just as much as they would if you were out in the world. But I don't agree with that like at all. I feel like a person should be able to go on Twitter without, without someone harassing them, without someone yelling racial slurs at them. I think that people shouldn't be able to use Twitter to, encourage people to be violent or encourage people to be hateful. And I also don't think it's in Twitter's best interest to allow people to do that. Now, I think there's a lot of things with these social media companies that needs some fixing. I think there needs to be more transparency about how they operate. I think for the longest, Twitter was used by a lot of nefarious people for these purposes, and Twitter was very inconsistent in how they handled it. Especially we go into Facebook. Facebook was basically a headquarters for a lot of propaganda and a lot of social engineering and a lot of election manipulation and things of that nature, and they needed to be better at that. Also, these companies are collecting data in a very private and undisclosed way, and who knows what that data has been used for. We know that on Facebook, this data we thought was used being mostly for advertisements was also being used for political purposes. So I'm not saying that these social media companies are perfect or angels, but I also don't think, we need to be like, this whole free speech thing is I think it's kind of a farce, or if maybe not a farce, but I guess I just disagree with people's arguments about it. Like, I don't think there should be this unfettered free speech on social media. Would you ever consider living in the EU? I mean, maybe. Probably not. Well, I was going to say probably not the UK, but is the UK even part of the EU anymore? But yeah, maybe like maybe one of those countries. What about the angle of does banning people like Trump from their platform hides the racism and hate versus letting people say allows them to organize or spread their message more? I think I understand the question. Like, it's not like I like the fact that America has a pretty high level of free speech. Not everybody agrees with that, I guess. But I just think that there needs to be a pretty high level of free speech, because often the speech that is necessary is unpopular, and often it is considered offensive by certain people. But I don't think any online privately owned platform has to allow that. Twitter is no more public square than the guest seat on CBS News. Yeah, pretty much. I saw a vid today where someone explained that Parler blatantly censors free speech by steering the conversation to the right, so their free speech platform is a front and not implemented. That's interesting. I didn't know that about Parler, but I could see that because, a lot of these people who are complaining about free speech, what they really mean is they want free speech for them, but not for people who disagree with them. It's the same thing like with the players who kneeled during the football game. Like, so many people are like, no, they shouldn't be able to do that. Some people are like, they should be fired. But, whenever a group of conservatives does something, whenever they protest, they want to protest wearing masks, they want to protest at Capitol Hill, people are like, oh, this is just their free speech. Even if you disagree, it's free speech. Now, there is a level, and there is a level at which people go too far in terms of what they're describing as violent or hateful. And there is a level on both sides where people just want to sort of have anything that they think is offensive be censored, and that can be a problem also. But generally, the people that are complaining about free speech are the people that are just looking for permission to be hateful and violent. Usually those are the people who are the loudest about free speech. And a lot of people want to use their free speech to silence other people. And that's not free speech. I like what Vosh said about this. Even in public space, being offensive, dangerous, hateful, or otherwise is not acceptable. Harmful messages exist and should be provided a platform. The problem with that is what is considered offensive, dangerous, hateful, or otherwise is a matter of opinion. And that's why I like free speech. And that's why I like a high level of free speech. The greatest example, or an example I always jump to, is if we go back to the civil rights era, the things that people like Martin Luther King Jr. were saying were highly offensive, highly unpopular, and considered hateful by many people. And I'm not to say that Martin Luther King Jr. or black people at the time just had freedom, obviously. But clearly, there was some respect of his freedom to express those views. They never walked up to him and arrested him just for saying stuff. Now, they arrested people for dumb shit, don't get me wrong. They arrested people unfairly all the time. But it was never, you said something and thus you deserve to be arrested. And that just goes, that goes for a lot of those speakers. And that goes for just throughout history. Sometimes the correct speech is offensive to the society and considered hateful by the society. Yeah, this particular beat is kind of intense. I'm very left politically, and I think canceling is dangerous when it comes to shaming college students and professors. People should be able to say dumb stuff and learn from it as undergrads. Yeah, I mean, canceling is dumb in general. Anything that is vengeance is dumb, in my opinion. There are large swaths of online activists that clearly care more about vengeance than actually making the world better, and that's not my position at all. If your goal is just to punish people, then that's I'm not with you on that. And that's usually what's happening with canceling. I think there's such a fine line because general ideas shouldn't be punished, but when an idea is something like monoculture, ethnostate, I think it's guaranteed to end in violence. Yeah, and there should be limits to what you can say. You shouldn't be able to incite violence. Like, it shouldn't be legal to, go on a stage somewhere with a microphone and tell people, hey, I want you to go grab your guns and go shoot up some people. Like, that shouldn't be legal. And you can argue that certain types of speech does that, even if it doesn't do it directly. But we also have to understand that this goes both ways. Like, if that's not allowed, then it also shouldn't be allowed to go on stage and be like, we need to go, like, I don't know, we had an issue in the Discord where someone was like, I think that we should be able to beat up transphobes. I think violence against transphobes is fine. And maybe you think that, but you can't say that. I mean maybe you can express the opinion, but you definitely can't encourage people to do that. That's not okay. It can't be a thing where I'm allowed to do stuff because I think I'm right. Otherwise, if you're doing that, then you're just as bad as the other side. Interested to hear more about your opinion on whether the civil rights movement had their right to free speech respected. In some ways it did, in some ways they didn't. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember anyone specifically being arrested for saying something. Usually it's like resisted. It was something dumb like resisting, or public disturbance or something like that. It's clear that they were trying to silence them. Don't get me wrong. It's very clear that they were trying to silence them. But they could never outright say you're not allowed to say that, because they know that free speech is a thing in this country. Now you can correct me if I'm wrong if that ever happened. I may just be ignorant of it. But yeah, it is very clear that civil rights leaders it was an attempt to silence them. But that's why that's why a lot of it was like very like clandestine and secretive. Otherwise, they would have just marched in anytime Martin Luther King was giving a speech and just arrested him on the spot. Like if they didn't give a shit about black people's free speech at all, they would have just marched in every single time. What's the line between expressing a provocative point of view and encouraging others to act on that point of view? It's a blurry line, and it's something that could literally have to be decided by a judge. Like there's not always a very there's not always a very distinct line. And I think sometimes people pretend that it's more simplistic than it is. All right, Clister, I'm probably going to be heading out soon as well. I'm just saying that they didn't make it illegal to say stuff. I understand that society tried to and continues to try to silence people who say things that are that disrupt the status quo. That happens even today. But they didn't make it illegal to say stuff. And because it wasn't illegal to say stuff, I think a lot of stuff got said that wouldn't otherwise have gotten said. Like other societies have literally made it illegal to say certain things, and in those societies those things just don't get said that much. And that's why I respect free speech so much, because we've seen it where the correct ideas were unpopular and offensive and considered hateful. We've seen that. Like, we can't pretend like there's an objective measure for what people think is offensive. So unfortunately, we have to take the good with the bad. People, you have to let people be shitty in order to hear the good people at the same time, because there's no way to objectively dictate who's shitty and who's not. I mean, if you want to be, you can, but that would make you a dictator, basically. And a lot of people have proposed the idea of the benevolent dictator. I feel like this day and age, most people realize that that's a bad idea, but maybe some people think that that's cool. Should Trump face jail time? I mean, it's likely. I don't know if we have definite proof that Trump did anything illegal. But I think it's likely that he did. So we just have to prove that he did something illegal, but I don't know. I don't really know. But yeah, probably going to end the stream in about 5 minutes. So if there's like 1 or 2 more questions or comments we can respond to, but I got to get ready to go watch the national championship. Got to watch my Alabama Crimson Tide. Hopefully we can pull it off. It seems like it's going to be a tough game, but we'll see. Alabama's been on fire this year. Roll Tide indeed. Very cool conversation this time. I mean, usually it's a good conversation, but I think this was a good one. And this is what I like. This is another thing I like about YouTube versus Twitch. You really have conversations like this on Twitch. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's me. Maybe if it was my community, it would be like that. But like even on like political channels, it's still super memey and weird. Do you think Trump will be banned everywhere other than his hotels and golf courses? I doubt it. Legal Eagle seems to think the issue here isn't illegality, as there aren't really laws against what happened, but he can be dragged out on the grounds of incompetency. Well, yeah, him being impeached, it doesn't involve him doing anything illegal. He can be impeached just by being a shit president. But being arrested, on the other hand, I think you have to do something illegal for that to be justified. But yeah, I think he should have been impeached 1,000,000 times. Impeached and removed for sure. Thanks, Hugh and Jay. You are a legend. I'm going to convince you to become a socialist one of these days. Well, I mean, that's all it takes is convincing. I'm not like principally opposed to it. It's just I haven't been convinced. I feel like most people I talk to just kind of have this idea that everyone like everyone would be a socialist if only they understood. Like there's just like no attempt at convincing. It's just like this kind of like condescending, you should know better kind of attitude. But you know, whatever. Yeah, I understand Biden's attitude about Trump. Like he's like, let me just leave this alone. Let's move on. I get that. And I understand like the idea that Trump should face consequences for the harm that he caused on the world. But again, like I'm not super interested in punishing people. But definitely if he did something illegal, like you can't just, it kind of defeats the purposes of laws if people can break the law without receiving any punishment for that. Yeah, I think I have a pretty good audience. I think I've done a decent job of cultivating a good audience, especially in the streams. Sometimes the comments under the videos can get a little weird, but I think the streams are usually like the more engaged viewers, I guess. Yeah, that's the thing. It seems like Trump got all of his underlings to do all the illegal stuff, which maybe could be itself illegal. I don't know. All the pardons were a crime? I don't know if they were, though. That's the thing about the president. That's the thing about the president. Being the president makes all of this very shaky and nebulous, because it's like how what Nixon said, it's not illegal when the president does it. It's like that sounds weird, but it might be true. Like they're still discussing whether or not a president can pardon himself. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Thank you for checking me out. I should have a new video coming out soon, probably Friday, and I probably also try to stream on Friday. Oh, I didn't know Legal Eagle did a video about that. I need to watch that. But yeah, check out all of the links under the video, all my social media and stuff. You can email me if you want to ask more long, in-depth questions. Join the Discord if you're looking for more cool conversations like this. Except on days when I'm not streaming, you can interact with the rest of the community. Just go to theonegender.com/Discord. And you can talk about other things other than politics. There's all kinds of different topics and stuff you can talk about. More chess on Friday. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, I guess that's it. I always feel like there's more that I should say, but you know, all my links are below. You can go check all that stuff out. And I'll probably see you. I'll see you either in video form or in live stream form, or both on Friday. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you for the $4.99.